Come manifest your best life with 190 Vision.
Lady Master Rhonda.
Good morning.
I see that halo over your head there, you know? Look at one of
I love that.
I know, look at an ascended master over there.
I love that. How are you guys
Now,
doing this morning?
listen, this is the first, you know, all of the other recordings always have just Laura in the recordings. This is the first recording where it's both of us in there.
Okay.
Why is that?
Oh, because this is a monumental event here with having worked with Rhonda for over 10 years, that she is finally at a point where she is like completely healed.
Didn't I tell you no over the top descriptions? Didn't I just say that?
You
Rhonda?
said no stories. You know I'm going to defend Laura. You said no stories.
But that is a good point. You know, and I feel excited about this because I remember years ago, I told you,
Right.
I remember saying, when you get completely healed, I will celebrate because this has just been too long and sometimes even really frustrating, right?
Exactly.
It's more for me because you'd say, no. You're always like all nice about it. I'm like, come on, you have to figure this out, right?
Because I knew you'd figure it out.
Well, thank you for having that faith in me. I definitely wondered what was going on most of the time. I'm like,
I knew you would figure it out. That's why I was committed to not taking medication anymore. I did not want to do that.
And that's why, to me, this interview, I said this discussion is so special, right? Because I said many times to individuals that if it weren't for Laura, and definitely if it weren't for you, I would not have, I don't think I'd have made up my mind to get trained by the Ascended Masters at all. I was not open to it. You guys know that. You ladies know that. But when here's the person that I'm married to, and one of my best friends, they're in pain, and they're like, I'm not going to take anything. You go figure it out.
Exactly.
I feel that I was kind of forced to get trained, you know, that I was put in a corner. I was blackmailed. Now that I think about it, I was blackmailed by both of you.
You're not blackmailed.
That is not true.
I just realized what happened.
You were forcefully pushed into the position you are now.
Wow.
Exactly.
How come I didn't see this years ago? It just dawned on me, you know. But I tell you, but now I'm really excited because we know that you're completely healed, and talk about complete. It is just fantastic.
It's a 190.
190. You know, so we're going to start with this story because really, this is the story not just of you, but of 190 Vision as well. You know, and for anyone that doesn't know, we've known each other for a very long time.
Yes.
And when we met, you approached us for help. I'm sure you'll talk about that a little bit. But I'm giving a summary here. You reached out for help. And at that time, of course, I already knew about the teachings. I was practicing the teachings with Saint Germain, Moses, El Moria, right? Jesus, Mother Mary. So anything that I did was tied to that, the decrees only, because I knew that the decrees worked. You know, so when you asked for help, initially that's what was going on. Of course, over the years, as I got trained, I realized, oh, decrees are fantastic, but there's easier ways and faster ways to make things happen, right? So we went from understanding that you are responsible for your karma and you alone has to balance that, to now it's like, oh, we actually have tools that can help you reduce that karma, you know?
Right.
So it goes from, what do you mean from you and you alone? And all of a sudden, like, oh, you have tools that can help you with that. All of a sudden, you can get healed quicker. And then we learn that even though you might have someone facilitating healing work on you, and certain conditions are healed, like in your case, like the migraine, that there's certain conditions that will continue, and you are required to do certain things to take care of those.
Correct.
That not everything is taken care of by the healing work that's done.
Correct.
You have to do your part with certain things. And that's the part where it took us a longer time with you
Hmm.
because you decided, as Elvis Presley says, hard-headed woman, to take your own sweet time with that, right? So,
I wouldn't say that.
I would.
I know. I know. But it wasn't just, it was more than that too, because even though I would feel better in my own space, then I also had to remind myself, I learned the hard way about letting my guard down around people that I knew,
That's
around
right.
people and friends because of their energy, or even if I feel fine during a conversation with them, then if their energy shifts, I'm not realizing. And you were the one that told me you are extremely sensitive. You have to protect yourself at all times because then the migraine would come on
Right.
and I would be in pain for hours, reaching out to you in tears, like, you have to fix this. I don't want to take anything. You have to fix this.
Uh-huh. That is true. We did talk about the sensitivity, and
Hmm.
sometimes people forget about that. The individuals that are really
Exactly.
sensitive, and those are the ones that brand themselves as empaths, I would say,
Yeah.
right?
You told me that, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't do that. I don't do that.
Because what we do in that case is, okay, so you're sensitive, so let's fix it. And
Correct.
so you have to learn how to handle that instead of saying,
Correct.
well, yeah, I'm being affected this way because I'm an empath. Instead of,
Hmm.
oh, I just realized what's going on here. Let me use
Right.
my tools and correct this. So
Correct.
you're right. So that was also part of it.
Do you remember the first instance or experience with me being sensitive to that?
I don't know if it's the first one. I remember one, but,
Okay.
but we'll get to that in a moment here,
Okay.
right? So now, to let everybody know, how long has this, and I know Elmora tells me not to use journey, but I'm using journey in this case because this was a journey. This was before he told me not
This
to
was
use.
our
Right, right.
journey together. Yes.
My disclaimer is he said not to use journey, but that's in relation to 190 Vision, what we're doing there. So this was
Got it.
before, you know,
Yes.
he told me. So El Moya, forgive me for using the word journey here. So how long has this journey been going on?
The first migraine was the day after Thanksgiving in 2001.
Can I do some calculations on that one?
Been 22 years.
22
Yes.
years. I've known you
Yep.
that long.
You met me, I think we met in 2004 or 2005. I think.
Oh, okay. So the 2001 is before we met.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So now let's talk about this and feel free to jump in because you're the master interviewer. Okay, so go ahead, Rhonda. Take it from there. You know, and I know we have
So,
videos out there about the migraine,
right,
so we'll keep
right.
this part short, right? And then we'll get into the rest of the journey along the way.
So basically, I did not know what was going on. I ate leftovers the day after Thanksgiving. Who doesn't? But I got physically sick afterwards. The worst headache ever. I was in the bathroom for a long time, and the head pain was so bad, I was in tears, and I called my mom, and she came over. Um, and I'm listening to her on the phone because someone brought me some Alka-Seltzer and I don't like Alka-Seltzer. But my mother said, just, drink a little bit of it and try to go to sleep. That didn't work. My mom went and got some Excedrin and she had to turn off. She stayed in my bedroom with me with the light off, the TV down very low, and I had to face away from the TV. And I finally felt myself dozing off. And she was on the phone with one of my uncles saying she just had her first migraine. What? And then after, because I was never experienced this before, afterwards, I hadn't had another pain like that for like 2 or 3 years. But
Oh,
I found out, yes, but I found out that through conversation, my maternal grandmother used to have migraines and
okay.
she would take BC powder for those. And I was like, I remember her taking that. And my mother said those are for migraines that she had. What?
Uh,
So yeah,
okay. So that's why
lesson
she
learned
said,
there.
I was about to ask you, why did she say she just had her first migraine as if though they
Uh-huh.
were familiar with the whole process?
Exactly. Exactly.
So outside of the 190 vision world, you would say that that's hereditary.
Correct.
But inside of 190 vision, we know that that's not the case.
It's not the case.
Exactly.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
awesome. I just put a plug in there for 190 vision. What do you think about that?
Really good. I have a question though. What is BC powder?
BC powder is a drug, I'm going to say, a pain reliever that they sell at like Walgreens or CVS here in Chicago. And it's in a blue and white box, and it actually looks like a pack of gum. The pill is ground up really fine, and then you open like you're opening a stick of gum, and the powder is in there. And my grandmother used to mix it with like Coke or RC back in the day, and then she would drink it, and it was a pain reliever.
Wow.
At that time, they still sold it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So go ahead.
So yeah, I didn't have another one for like 2 or 3 years. Then they started to come on more frequently. My primary care doctor at the time gave me a prescription every month for these little pills to take whenever there was a migraine. And it got to the point in 2007 where that did not work. And that was my first hospital experience with using medication to get rid of the migraines.
So that was already 6 years
Yes.
since the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yep. So it was, I just woke up with a headache one morning and it did not go away. So during that window before the hospital admission, I had been to 2 chiropractors. I had been to the dentist. I had been to a naturopath. And my primary doctor. I had been to a couple of neurologists. I had a table full of medication and it just would not go away. And when my brother said, you need to go, he was watching the Discovery Channel, saw a woman who had experienced migraines for 15 years until she went to a headache doctor. When she went to the headache doctor, then she had only had one maybe once or twice a year. I looked in the phone book. That's how long ago this was. Looked in the phone book, found the headache doctor, went, and I had to fill out all of these papers because, again, outside of 190 vision, they figure it's hereditary on either parent's side. And the day of my appointment with them, they admitted me into the hospital.
Wow.
And I was there for 7 days. They gave me medication every day. And then there was that they call preventatives. And then they gave me pain medication to take. And that was different pills. So it was loads of fun. And then, I don't know if you remember this, the day that I came home from the hospital, guess who picked me up from the hospital?
That guy?
Yep, that guy. And that woman was here at my house with my mom, waiting for me to get home. Yeah.
Of course, we have to pick you up when we found out what happened.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes. And then we went to Walgreens to get my lovely prescriptions, which totaled almost $300.
We didn't know any better then, you know. We as me, like, I just ignored all the prompts from El Moria.
Right.
You need to help. You have to learn how to heal people.
Right.
Like, no, I don't know who you are, Arabian guy, but I'm not listening to that. You know, that's pretty much how it went.
Right. But yeah, then that journey started. And after a while, the medication, although I was taking it every day, for the preventatives, I would take, whatever pain pills for pain, but it just got to the point where it was not helping. It was not helping. And then the job that I had at the time, we were going through a merger between 2 banks, and the stress level was extremely high. And I wound up in the hospital for like 7 days each month, back to back, November, December, and January. And I reached out in tears on my way to work on the bus. I will not forget this. And I talked to Laura, and she said, all you have to do is ask for help. And I was on the bus crying because I was tired. I was tired of feeling like that, waking up in pain every single day.
And when was that now? Do you remember what year that
I
was?
was that was in 2014, I think.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that was 2013, 2014.
So here was Hotshot telling you to reach out for help, knowing that I refused to be trained to learn to heal and do all these
Right.
clearings and things, right? But then she tried to reach out.
Yeah, she did. All you have to do is ask for help. Why are you
Yes.
looking at her like that?
Prior to that, though, you had been given some decrees to say.
Yes. And I was, they were on a piece of paper in typed up in purple, and I was saying those every day. And then I would get to the point where I would say them, and then, oh, I have a question about this. So then I had notes in the margins. What does this mean?
Mhm.
And yeah, that was a part of my daily routine. And I was so proud of myself. I could say them straight through without looking at the paper. And I was like, hey, okay, not even noticing how I was feeling. I was just glad that I was able to say it every morning.
Now, what were those helping? Because it sounds like
They were helping, but fast forward, it was also an emotional thing that I just hadn't recognized. I thought it
God,
was just stress.
right.
Hmm.
And then when you called and were in tears on the bus, and I told you you just need to ask for help,
Hmm.
that was when my husband was really beginning to embrace his training. And I was like, all I know is that and when the individual asks, I can let my husband know and he can step in and start using his training.
Exactly.
He can step in. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did, didn't he?
Good job. Yes, he did. Yes,
Thanks
he
for
did.
asking.
So,
Yes, he did.
so let's go from there now, right?
Okay. Now, the funny part is we set up time, and I don't know if you'll remember this. We set up time to have a conversation, and I was explaining the same thing that I'm explaining now, how this whole thing started.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, you're like, yikes, what is all that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what do you see? What is going on here? Because you were shown all of the pain medication or the medication period that I was taking at the time. You're like, those are a lot of bottles. Yeah.
No, I don't remember, but that sounds funny.
Yes. So you saw all of that.
And that's probably how I got convinced to
Mhm.
start doing something. You know, Elmoria probably
Probably.
said, show him how many bottles of stuff she's taking. Otherwise,
Exactly.
seriously. You know that, right?
Exactly.
I was
Exactly.
the triple team the whole time.
We're just
Yeah.
following Elmoria's guidance and pushing you to do what you're supposed to.
See?
Wow.
I was your first research partner. I was your first research partner.
I was going to say that for sure. You were the first, you know, and I
Mhm.
used the word. I said, I remember calling you a few times and said, I want to experiment.
Yes.
Yeah, and you'd be like, go right ahead. You know, it was like,
Exactly.
you didn't even think twice about it. It was like, go right ahead,
No.
just do it. You know, so
Yes.
I really want folks to see how 190 Vision started. You know, really,
Hmm.
if it weren't for you and Laura, we wouldn't be at this point at all. You know,
Well, I thank God for it. I thank God for the journey. And especially with now I find myself, one of the guys that I work with, his wife has migraines. And I said, really? Has she thought about an all natural, approach? So now I'm asking these probing questions so I
right?
can direct her to 190 Vision. Because
Good
people
point.
can't believe that especially those that really know me and know how often I was in the hospital. I
Mhm.
still have friends and family that pray that it's not a migraine or it's, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So slowly
it's
they'll let
wonderful.
go of that frequency, right? That they sent
Exactly.
your way.
And this is when they're talking, I'm like, yeah, okay. Get in my bubble. We're not doing that. I'm fine.
Very good point.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
So now you contact me, we talk, I see
Hmm.
these bottles, and then the work starts.
Correct. Yes. The work starts with decrees and learning later to be in my bubble. But yeah, it was just really, it was very decree heavy then. So this is something that I would have to, like I said, I would say it in the morning when I get up. I would say it at night. Depending on how I felt throughout the day, I would need to step away and say it. And I think that's where a lot of my questions would come in when I'm saying it throughout the day.
Right.
I remember you and I having a conversation, and you were telling me, well, I'm on the bus and I was just saying all my decrees, but I saw you were calling, so I answered your call. So I know you did a whole lot more than what you just described.
Exactly. Especially and then having to learn, to your point about being on the bus, having to learn different routes because I didn't realize just how sensitive I was. So I forgot what banking job it was, but the bus routes, it would go past doctor's offices, urgent care. There was even, I think, a Planned Parenthood space that performed abortions, and I would be fine until we get to that stop or that building, and then the head pressures would come on.
That's
so I
right.
had to find different routes to work. I'm like, okay, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
But then I didn't realize that even if I walked a certain place, when did you guys put an urgent care here? So then these buildings would pop up, and I'm like, okay, look, I don't know what to do.
Right. That's a good point you bring up there, because at that time I hadn't been trained on clearing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just learning that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, everything was decree focused because I knew that worked.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we know now that that's a long way to getting things done, right? A much longer way to getting things done.
Correct.
I understand now why El Moria and Saint Germain and Madame will be like, boy, would you just let us train you? You know? I'm like, no, I'm fine with the decrees. Really, you know, I'm really fine with the decrees. They're like, you need more. I'm like, no, I'm really fine. That's all about comfort zone, right? I was in my comfort zone there.
Wait, what's that song? Red-Headed Man?
There is no such song.
Of course there is. Okay, Laura and I will write one.
And the guy that sung the one about the woman, he's dead, so that can't come back. So
are you sure? We could have a conversation.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah. You know, but yes, I remember that as I start to learn now, I was learning about how to identify sources. That's when I checked to see the source of this migraine. And then we found out, abortion stuff. And we're like, what? And when I told you, I remember when we told you, like, no, I don't go past any such thing. I think it took about a month or so before you realized it.
Because that's not what I remember that building being. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's a sign up there. And because that building has been there since I was a kid, and it's still there. But it was I just knew of it as a doctor's office. I mean, to show you how long it was there, I got my ears pierced for the first time in that building.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't register anything like that until I just so happened to look up at the sign. Oh, wow. Okay. New route. Come tomorrow.
And so, we're telling you need to find a new route because, of course, we didn't know anything about. I hadn't been trained on clearing. Put it this way, I wasn't open to it at the time. So I could say, okay, the Mike was just waiting, right? Like, when is this boy going to just be open to this training? So Rhonda doesn't have to be trying to figure out routes anymore. Yeah, that's an easy clearing, you know, but we didn't know at the time.
Exactly. And it was always and I don't know, and Laura would definitely know better than me, but it would be at night, like around 8 or something. Okay, I'm going to try this. Okay. And it's like, you probably got some poke or whatever while you're at home. And then, okay, you're going to try something new. And then, okay, we're going to try something different. Or I tried something different. Let me know how you feel. Okay.
Yep.
And then you'd get updates all the time.
Which was fine with me, you know, because finally I had to take it seriously because you just refused to take any medication.
I didn't want to.
and I remember one time you were crying, and you're like, and I said, okay, how about you take some medication until I figure this out? You're like, no, just go figure it out.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, oh man, do I really have to? So I spent a lot of time. Right now, now you know. You didn't know this before, but I spent hours because I couldn't have you going to sleep in pain. So I had
It
to
was
stay up and
awful.
just figure it out.
And I remember that day. I was here and the pill bottle was on the table. And I just laid on the couch in a fetal position. The tears started flowing. I'm like, I'm not going to take anything. I trust this process. I'm not going to take anything. I trust this process. And in the morning, I felt better. Whatever you did worked. And then we talked on the way to my mom's house. And
Right.
you figured out, you let me know what happened. And it's
Mhm.
like, you have to protect yourself. And that's where the sensitivity of other people's energy, that's when it really came to light.
Empath stuff,
Hmm.
you know. But then you start doing the protection. So now you start doing the protection. When did the migraine finally go away?
That's a good question. This is 2023.
Uh huh.
I want to say maybe 2 years
Okay.
because the
So
last hospital stay was 2019,
okay.
March of
So
2019.
so within 2 years, migraine is gone.
Correct.
So and I was excited about that because I thought, okay, she's healed
Now we're done, right?
and we're done, right? And then you
Still
started with
waking up
the thing about
with the dull pressures,
uh-huh
right? And then
and
we
the
even
headache.
had to go through an exercise of me shifting the way I sleep.
That's right.
Because I was sleeping with the head against the headboard, which was right near the outlet.
The
And you
outlet.
were like, nope, you need to sleep the other way. And now I still do that.
And so now that's when I was being trained on things like geopathic stress
Hmm.
and electromagnetic
Magnetic
radiation
radiation
and electromagnetic frequencies.
frequency. Hmm.
So then we found out about that and realized that you were being affected by that.
Again, because you're so wonderfully sensitive.
You know?
Exactly.
So at that time, because I was just learning now how to do that, we had to just change position because I hadn't learned yet how to take care of all that stuff. I was just learning the ins and outs of what they did, how they affected people, and so he did that.
Right.
So now we knew the migraines are gone. All of a sudden, now here you are with these bloody dull pressures and
Yes.
headache,
Yes.
and that was 2019 that the migraine was done. So I'd say for a solid 4 years, then at least 3 years,
Hmm.
we've been dealing with headaches and dull pressures.
Correct.
And
Drilling and sharp
right,
pain. Yes.
exactly. And you'd be like sharp pain, dull pressure. I'm like, what in the world is this? I remember us having a conversation. I said, well, so you still have migraine? And you're like, no, I don't. I'm like, well, you have headache. You say you have headache. And you're like, yes, it's a headache. It's not a migraine. So what's
Correct.
the difference between them? Because I thought it was the same thing.
With the migraine, even though I didn't have my vision wasn't blurred. My vision was only blurred once throughout the migraine process. But with the migraine, there comes the nausea and the vomiting and the diarrhea and the lightheaded feeling. So all of that was coming with the migraine.
And the
But with the
sensitivity,
headache,
like,
correct, and the sensitivity to light and sound and smell. We went through that too when I was taking the train back and forth. And I was telling you guys about this smell, and you were like, yes, you have to protect yourself, especially on the train. There's so
Mhm.
many, or public transportation, period. There's so many different smells going on there. But with the headache, it's just that pain in that area.
Ah,
No other symptoms.
got it. So then that started.
Correct.
So now we started working on that,
Hmm.
and it would come and go. And
Correct.
the biggest thing was about you. I remember many times I said, did you get in your bubble? And you'd be like, well, no, why
No.
not?
Because I was talking to this person. I was talking to that person. Well, do I need to be in the bubble when I'm talking to my mom? And then, yeah, you do. And I had to learn again about letting my guard down with family and friends because that energy shifts and then all of a sudden they're fine and I'm dealing with a sharp pain or something going on in my, so yeah, no.
So now, when we talk about energy shifts, what are we talking about? Huh? Okay, she seems surprised, so I'll just say.
Yeah, we're talking about energy shift.
But so, for example, if you're interacting in an environment or with people, they have their own frequency that you're sending out, right? Now, they don't know what that is like. But for you, the person that's really sensitive, when you pick that up, it could be non-beneficial for you.
Absolutely.
So that's the frequency that we're talking about, or that energy, vibration, whatever people might call it.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the bubble, because someone watching this video might be asking, well, what is a bubble? You want to give
So
them an
for
idea without going
me,
into too much details about what that is?
for me, it's, and I use this, this just makes me chuckle, but that's what I see, especially when I'm walking down the street and I'm in my bubble. It's like a hamster wheel, but it's not metal, it's a plastic bubble. And that's when I'm in while people are, walking, talking, whatever. Even people that are talking to me, it's like this plastic is around me because I have to protect myself.
Now,
So that's the bubble to me.
have you found that effective?
Oh, absolutely.
And why did we suggest you do that?
Because I was extremely sensitive and still am sensitive to people and their vibrations and their energy.
Now, here's one thing. I remember when COVID was on,
Mm-hmm.
you had to do a lot of things remotely. Like you were in conference
Correct.
calls. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because that's when it would happen a lot, right?
Yes. So because we were not in the office at all. Like you said, everything was via Zoom, Skype, what have you. And I would feel fine. And then certain customers would start talking, and then this sharp pain would come out of nowhere. And I'm like, what is going on here? I was feeling fine. But then I would start listening to the Violet Flame song while they're talking because they can't hear me or they can't hear it. Then I had to say a different decree before the conference call. Well, I call it the get centered decree, but it helped me to stay balanced during those conference calls.
Now, did you also get in your bubble at that point?
Actually, no. It was just saying the balancing or get centered. I call it get centered. I would say that decree several times before the conference call, and I would be listening to the Violet Flame, and I'd be fine. It was when I needed to leave the building or leave my apartment, even on the elevator, going downstairs, I would be in my bubble. And sometimes I would wait until I got outside, and you were like, no, as soon as you leave your apartment, before you leave your apartment, get in your bubble. So I had to remind myself to do that.
So now, did you ever have the experience where you're not in your bubble, you're telling someone on the phone, and you got affected in any way?
Yes. And I think I even asked you either talking on the phone or reading a text message. And I think I asked that question too once before. Can their negative energy be transferred to me? You were like, yes, you need to get in your bubble before you read it, or you need to do a protection decree before you read that text message, answer the phone, or anything. And I think I had that conversation with Laura because I would get these hinky phone calls, or I needed to make a call about something, and I felt myself getting, I want to say upset, maybe irritated. And Laura said, no, just do your protection decree before you make that call. And it was fine.
Okay. So now, despite that, every now and again, you still wound up experiencing these sharp pains,
Correct.
dull pressures, or headache, right?
Correct.
Which was just bothersome
Baffling
to
to
me.
you.
Because I'm like, we've taken care of migraine. What is this?
Right.
And so then finally, I was told what it was, and it had to do with that I had done everything I could do, and that now it was up to you. You had to do your part.
Correct.
Right? And I'd never really had that happen. I was never told that before. You were the first person that I was told that about. I'm like,
I was
really?
shocked.
So what does she need? Right. So it's like, what does she need to do? So then that's when we had the conversation. And then you decided.
I had to go back to doing my meditation every morning. And because
For
I
how long?
was so sensitive, instead of doing it twice a day, I needed to do it 3 times a day. So in the morning when I get up, at night before I go to bed, and I had to make time to do it in the afternoon or in the middle of the day.
Right. Now, I think it's important at this point so that anyone watching this will understand that you had started, once you started feeling a lot of the relief, you began the training with 190 Vision, and you started
Correct.
to receive more tools to help yourself.
Correct.
And it was during this time, as you've been receiving all these tools, when my husband here received that message about, no, you have to do your part now.
To your point, Laura, yes. Because I had gotten so good at using the tools previously, Ken wouldn't have to do any work on me.
Mhm.
I remember we went through that stretch for a while too. And you
Yes,
were
that's
like,
right.
I didn't do anything. And I'm like, what? But I feel better. You're like, okay, good. Keep going. I'm like, oh, okay. Yay. But then I think I took that for granted. Because then I stopped,
Okay.
like
Yeah,
you were
because
saying, I stopped doing what I was supposed to do because I was feeling better, not realizing that there was something else that needed to be addressed.
To watch the full episode of this video, please go to the 190 Vision channel on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. Request help by visiting the 190vision.com website. Click on the Help Me tab and submit the consent form. Join others that are on the path of manifesting their best life through the 190 Vision Facebook group. Learn more about other topics by listening to podcasts on the 190 Vision Spotify channel or by watching videos on the 190 Vision YouTube channel. Help support the 190 Vision community by clicking on the Donate button that is located at the bottom of every page on our website.